we're going to go ahead and talk rabbit nutrition. Because apparently this needs to be a longer conversation, because we have bullies on here, which is unfortunate. So, facts. Rabbits require 16% protein in order to thrive. 16% protein minimum. There are caveats to that. Typically, it's when they need more. The base of a rabbit's diet is going to be either an alfalfa hay base or a timothy hay base. I personally prefer using the alfalfa hay base. And the reason that we prefer to use the alfalfa hay base is because alfalfa is a higher protein percent. And as a legume hay, it has a higher nutrition value. So, the reason that we use that as the base is to do it. Now, typically, the easiest way and the most uniform way to feed your rabbits is going to be by selecting a complete and balanced pellet. And complete and balanced pellets are going to be from a couple of key manufacturers. And again, this is information that can be taken mainly US and Canada because we have complete feed here. UK has issues because they have nuggets and because there's not the same type of oversight or science, and there's a lot of misinformation over in the UK and in other parts of the world, in Europe and a large chunk of Australia. They don't have the same access to complete pellets that we do in the US. So my information is based on US, what is good in the US. And there are multiple types of pellets. The one that we are currently using, and I've actually gone ahead because we have so many rabbits and we're buying so much in bulk that we just went ahead and became a dealer for, was Heinold Reynolds. And we were using it before we became a dealer. There's no, we don't really get any extra kickbacks. It's just we buy a couple pallets every month, and we were already feeding the cows and the goats and the sheep similar formulas from that mill. So it just made sense for us to go ahead and buy bulk with a dealer. And since we're buying a little extra, we went ahead and got the dealer permission so that we can resell. That's the only thing. But if you want to talk about, you know, obviously that is the one that we are currently using, and that is the one that I am okay to sell. But I've used other pellets in the past, so I can give you a list of other good feeds available in your area. I've used Kalmbach and been very happy with it. We've used AMD Pen Pals and been very happy with it. Some of the Mana Pro stuff is good, although right now it's a little, you got to be really careful picking out which one. They changed the formula on the red bag, so I no longer use that. And the green bag, which is, I want to say it's the it's Grow. Green bag is Grow, which is their 18%, and their Show pellet, which is a 16%. That's a better formulation than the Pro pellets. Those are still good, but the red bag they changed out, and there's also been a lot of issues from the mill that's milling the red bag, where they've had a lot of dust and mold issues, particularly in Ohio. So I'm no longer using that. Anyway, so hi, Brooke. Anyway, so getting back to what you want to look for a base. Now, this is not saying that you can't do your own research and formulate a from scratch mix. But if you're going to be formulating a from scratch mix for your rabbits, the recommendation is still use an alfalfa base. I understand that people research a lot of online and they say Timothy, 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 Timothy. The reason that they're saying Timothy is because the assumption is you're already feeding an alfalfa-based pellet. And if you're already feeding an alfalfa-based pellet, you don't want to add loose alfalfa hay on top of already feeding an alfalfa-based pellet, because that'll kick up the calcium content that you're already getting in your pellets to too high for the rabbit to handle. So the reason that Timothy was originally recommended as a replacement hay was if you're going to be supplementing mostly pellet and you want to give a hay, you give a Timothy or a grass hay as your supplemental, because that way you are not overblowing your rabbit's calcium and causing stones or bladder sludge. That is the reasoning. So that got twisted. And that got twisted into it being, oh, you need to feed 80% Timothy. It's like, no. You don't need to feed 80% Timothy, because Timothy only has a 9 to 12% protein content, which is not enough to sustain your animals. It's not enough to sustain a rabbit. So the reason that you're going to go ahead and choose a different grass mix or choose a different percentage is so that you're still maintaining that 16% minimum of protein. And the other reason that you may want to add hay, now there's caveats for everything, and there's different ways to mix it. Personally, what we do is we do approximately 1 ounce per pound of expected adult weight when we are doing measured feedings for the rabbits. So if I'm just feeding like my bucks, or I'm feeding juniors that are past their big growth spurt age, but they're not actively being used for breeding or anything, but we need to maintain them. So maintenance diet, and also our pet diet that we feed our retirees, is 1 ounce of pellet per 1 pound of their correct body weight. So a 10-pound rabbit will get 10 ounces of pellets a day. We'll do like a 5 ounce in the morning and 5 ounce at night, or you can actually just feed them once a day at night. And usually they'll nibble about half of that at night, and then they'll finish the rest in the morning, and then you can feed them again, or you can split it, because rabbits are crepuscular, which means that they eat morning and evening. That's just naturally how their bodies work. They don't graze all day. They typically just come out, twice a day, morning and night, and nom, because they're prey animals. So, that is something else to kind of keep thoughts about. So we do measured pellets for our maintenance rabbits, and we do free feed for nursing does and free feed for grow outs. Now, a grow out is going to be a rabbit that's from the time that they start eating pellets, which is they start nibbling about 4 weeks old or so, 3 to 4 weeks old. They start nibbling on mom's pellets, and even though mothers tend to wean their young by 4 to 5 weeks old, I typically leave them on mom until at least 8 weeks. And so right around 8 and 9 weeks is when we start sexing them and pulling them off mom. And then they will be free fed until they're 3-4 months old, and then we can go on from there. Oh, cool. So I think Domino's, we're going to talk nutrition. Hello,
Hey.
Hey.
So I went and looked that person up, and
I saw she's got an account with what's it called? But yeah, Oxbow's paying her.
The rabbit is being fed plates and plates of veggies, and then it got life-threatening gas. I wonder why.
So it had nothing to do
Gee.
with it had nothing to do with hay or no hay. It had to do with which is what we just started discussing, because this is specifically nutrition talk right now.
Yeah,
This is what I'm focusing on, is
I know.
why we base on and what hay is for. And you know what? And this brings me back to when hay is important for adding fiber. If we're going to switch to UK diet, where they do feed more vegetables and their pellets don't have enough nutritional content to sustain them by themselves, that extra fiber is required to balance them out, because unfortunately, if you're feeding your rabbit a lot of vegetables, it is going to destroy their hindgut, and it will cause bloat and GI stasis. So it's the vegetables and the sugar that cause the bloat and the GI stasis, not the pellets. And that is something that has been parroted falsely by House Rabbit Society going back to the 90s. And what had happened was, back in the 90s, and Domino can attest to this, they started conflating rabbit and cavy care. So cavy needs vegetables. Cavies have to have vegetables. They need hay, they need vegetables, they need vegetables and hay all the time, because they're grazers, because their bodies don't produce vitamin C, because a cavy diet is there is a completely different digestion process than a rabbit. It's a different species entirely. So
Where
house rabbits, yeah,
rabbits digest in the cecum, whereas cavies digest in the colon, and so they have a longer time span to break down all of this vegetable matter. They have a different hindgut bacteria that actually will break down in the colon versus in the cecum. Rabbits break down in the cecum, and their bacteria is very sensitive to sugars. The more sugars in the diet, which is carbohydrates, the higher the carbohydrates in the diet, the more sugars in the cecum, the higher that gut bacteria population can bloom. This can create gas. This can create GI stasis. One leaf of romaine contains as much carbohydrates as one medium strawberry. So a plate of romaine salad, basically, that these people are feeding, is a sugar salad. You're feeding them a
yeah,
sugar salad and then wondering why they're getting gas and getting sick.
yeah. And And the thing is, yes, I understand your rabbits can eat veggies, but what I also tend to see a lot is people will get a bunny when it's like 8 weeks old, and they seem to be able to, they're either going to tolerate it or they're not going to tolerate it up to like a year, 2 years old. But then after, a couple years of that, their bodies aren't going to be able to break it down the same either. So if if they serve, oh, hold on, I think I need to trade out puppies. Come on, Bernie. Okay, give me just a minute. I'm sorry. I got to bring my pup in. But yeah, but they trade out. If you want to just go ahead and take over for a minute, Domino, I got to bring him up.
Yeah. So with rabbits, they're perfectly okay to give vegetables, but people give the absolute incorrect amount. And a lot of these folks that we see, and we even had a discussion with somebody who does the pet rabbit side. And even he agreed that the amounts of vegetables being fed are way overboard. We're talking, we shouldn't exceed more than maybe an eighth of a cup of vegetables a day. That's like a quarter of a leaf of romaine.
Yeah. So, and that was even the rescuers said that it's too. House Rabbit Society people or people that are parroting, they're telling people to do too much. Like we've seen up to 5 cups people have said to give them as just it's too much. And even I was saying, it's not that we never give them vegetables, not that we never give them fruit. Joe was getting a couple slices of apples every 2 days. So that's fine. No, you don't overload on pellets. They can eat 100% pellet. Measured out, 1 ounce per pound, adult body weight. So there, you can't overload on pellets if you're feeding them measured pellets.
So you measure the pellet amount. It's 1 ounce per pound of adult body weight. So like a Netherland dwarf, you don't want over 2.5 pounds. So you're going to do 1 ounce per pound. And the other thing that we're seeing is they're equating rabbits to grazers. Rabbits aren't grazers. They are crepuscular animals, which means that they eat in the morning and then they take a siesta break throughout the middle of the day, and a rest break during the middle of the day where they can digest their food, and then they go back out in the evening to eat again. And so they're equating them to cavies, which is a grazing animal, whereas a rabbit is a crepuscular animal. They don't need food in front of them 24/7. They get their measured amount of pellets morning and evening. You take that 1 ounce per pound ration and you split it morning and evening, and that's their food for the day. They don't have to have food in front of them 24/7.
And again, back to what I was saying earlier, you don't push more hay because hay doesn't have enough nutrition. It doesn't have enough protein. So what you end up doing is unbalancing your pellet. You unbalance their food. And if you unbalance their food, you are effectively starving them through malnutrition. Now you got to remember, you can be fat and starving. Just because when we say starving, we need malnourished. So malnourished means they are not getting what they need. And the way you tell that is you have brittle coats, dull eyes. They could be popping around and binking and stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're healthy. They need
Constantly shedding is another one. Constantly molting. Poor muscle tone. Oftentimes we can actually feel this in pet rabbits. You put your hand on a pet rabbit, one that's fed this way, and they're mush. They feel squishy. Yeah. Ours feel
rabbits firm. Should never. Yeah, I got videos up of Oreo. Oreo is a great example. Oreo and T-Pain, because they are shiny. They are tanks. So a lot of people go, "Oh, pellets make them fat." No, pellets make them muscular. Because they are able to build that structure, they'll build that muscle, that texture. They're able to build a proper coat. And like Oreo, you get your hands on him, and one of the things that we do for showing is it is the texture of the body, the firmness of the body. If a judge puts their hand on your rabbit and they squish, you're losing points, because that means that your rabbit is malnourished and just stacking on fat. You want a firm, muscular rabbit. That's what you're looking for. So if they're fed properly, if they're getting enough of the correct nutrition, they're going to have a shiny coat, They're going to have excellent muscle tone, and they're going to be generally healthier. So
we literally had somebody in the comments the other day go, well, the rabbit got oily, and I'm like, oh, it got greasy, and I'm like, can you please describe this to me? And the person said, well, their coat got shiny, like it was slick and like it was wet. And I'm like, its fur went into better condition. I'm like, when a rabbit is greasy, it gets clumpy and chunky, and that is a greasy, nasty coat. But a
so this is a
shiny,
satin.
see how shiny that is?
So shiny that is. And I kind of wish well, actually, I might have pictures of mine under different lighting.
But on a good diet, this person is so unaccustomed to their, and they also said that the rabbit felt different, like it felt softer. And I'm sitting here thinking this person was so confused that their rabbit got onto a correct pelleted diet, a complete pellet, and it improved. And because they had gotten so used to it feeling so bad before, they thought something was wrong with the rabbit.
Yeah. So, yeah, which is unfortunate, but we see that a lot. So, if I can figure out how to get this thing to behave itself. I'm going to flip it. There we go, flip it. So anyway, these are pictures of I just took these for the website. But here is this is a New Zealand doe. This is not a satin. But you see how shiny that is. And again, these rabbits are fed 100% pellet. The only time that these rabbits will get anything but pellets is if they're nesting, or if it drops below 20 degrees. So if it gets cold, they'll get some hay, and if they're building a nest, they'll get some hay. But for the most part, this is what they look like, and this is just on the Orrin Reynolds 16%. And you could see just how shiny those coats are. And let's see. And the blacks, of course, show it the best. And then again, we have, well, let's see, he is currently molting because it's spraying the egg. And then we have Mr. T-Pain, who is one of my homebreds.
My baby boy.
And again, you can see him. And again, he's probably molting. There's a little bit down there. But this is in New Zealand. This is not a satin. And this is just, straight. They're on straight pellet. And they have good condition. If you put your hand on him, this is firm all the way back. So there's no squish here. It's just solid. And this is all just solid. I picked him up with the baby. But yeah, he was so relaxed you thought he was sick. That was entertaining. But yeah, but that's what they're supposed to be like if they're getting proper nutrition. And then we can go further into it. Like the other problem is when people go, I want to keep my rabbit on hay, they don't understand the difference between the hay, because there are many different hay mixes, and even the same hay, it is going to be different depending on what cut it is. First cut grass hay is not the same nutritional density or quality as second or third cut grass hay. It's just not. Actually, let's see. If Little Shit wants to join in, she's more welcome to join in too.
And there's also the fact that the longer that the hay sits, the more nutritional value it loses. So let's take the oxbow pit hay that you get from the store as an example. When they package that hay, they do the analysis on it, and the guaranteed analysis on it is roughly between 9 and 12% protein. But depending on the manufacturer or the bag date on that bag, every month it sits on the shelf, it's losing more and more and more of that nutritional value as it continues to dry out and get worse. So if that bag sat on the shelf for 4 months, and then you put it into, you give it to your rabbit, and it takes the rabbit a while to get through it, that whole time it's losing its nutritional value the entire time, whereas a pellet is hard compressed, and it is sealed in a bag, basically kept in the dark, to where it's going to hold onto its nutritional value longer than loose hay does.
Yeah, and like we know, like typically, like we know how much you're going to go through. So if we buy a pallet of pellets from our mill, we know how long it's going to take us to go through. Like we roughly go through between 4 and 8 bags a week, plus the ones that we're selling. So if we have a buyer that's going to come to us every couple weeks and buy like 15 bags, then we know, okay, 50 bags to a pallet, and we are going to go through that pallet before the end of the month. And if the freshness date is 6 months, we know our feed is always going to be fresh because we're getting it, every month or 2 months we're getting a brand new pallet, and we can check the dates on that, so we know that the nutritional content of that is still within its freshening date.
The soil composition has a lot to do with the hays, because if you have poor soil growing the hay, then you're going to have a lesser hay to begin with.
Yeah. As far as tractor raisings, I personally do not do it. There's a lot of meat breeders that will do it because it will save them a bit on fodder. But my personal reason that I do not colony raise and I do not do tractors is because I do not want my rabbits touching raw soil because of the parasites, because of RHVD2, because of all there's a lot of extra factors. Plus, I like to be able to control what they're getting. So for me, it's a safety, it's a biosecurity for me personally. Not everyone does that.
First
There's
time
other
I
people
ever
that,
tried tractor raising, I lost an entire litter to coccidiosis.
yeah, like I said, me personally, it makes me nervous. So
Yeah, I don't agree with putting them on the ground either, because coccidia, RHDV2, E. cuniculi, depending on what other animals have been on there, you can get worms is another one. Let's see, predators. Of course, predation is another thing.
Yeah, there's a reason why rabbits produce so many offspring, is because when they're out in the wild, not many of those offspring are going to survive. They
yeah,
have to produce constantly in order to maintain the species.
the tumoremia, the rabbit fever, and that's a possibility. Now there is still a chance you may get that cage raising because a lot of the stuff like mice can be a vector, and you can only control mice to so much of a degree, or
Loose hay,
flies.
loose hay is a
Yeah,
vector.
yeah. So
Loose
there's
hay is
still
a
a chance
vector.
you may get it, but it's a lot more controlled when you're raising them up off the ground.
We know
Um,
somebody who got botulism off of hay here recently. It was
well, I
loose
got
hay. It was
yeah.
hay that had brought in botulism.
Well, I remember I had coccidia because I allowed them to have hay over the summer last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically we stop feeding hay as soon as the weather warms up, and we switch to either cubed as treats because it's a little more controlled, or we just go straight pellet, and they only get the hay when they're nesting. But yeah, no, we ended up giving the rabbits hay, and all of a sudden I was getting coccidia really bad, and then we realized when we pulled the hay, it stopped, and we were able to clear it. So that's another concern.
Yeah, I only do hay in the nest boxes, and usually in the spring if I see somebody's at risk for wool block if they're starting to molt.
Yeah, but
That's pretty much it.
yeah, but typically, and that is the other thing is hay for us is medicinal. So now there are times when your rabbit may need it. If your rabbit's poorly bred and it has megacolon, it's going to need that higher fiber content in order to fill its stomach in order to push the food all the way through, because they're not constructed the same as a healthy rabbit. If the rabbit is going into GI stasis, one of the first things I thought was interesting, you give it a shot of sugar water to get that gut moving, and then you follow that up with the critical care and a hay diet, and then you rotate it back out to the pellets. But again, it's used for getting the gut moving again, but it's not necessarily nutritionally the best base as a continual feeding practice.
Yeah, I'm
I'm gonna
really liking that new pellet we just bought.
Oh, sweet. I'm gonna touch on the critical care point here. If you look at the back of the package of critical care, and you look at the back of the package of the complete pellets that we use, they're identical, almost identical.
We're going to mirror. Here.
There we
So
go.
that's. Let me see if I can get to focus. This is Heinold Reynolds. I happen
Back
to
it
have
up a
one
little
of these.
bit. Yeah.
Maybe. We're gonna go all the way down, and then we're gonna go. Can we?
Come
No.
on, focus.
Focus. There. That's the closest you're gonna get.
There we
I
go.
like to read it. But yeah, it's alfalfa. Yeah, I can even read it. So we start with the alfalfa, and we go already down. But this is 16% protein. I'm just gonna read it because I can actually read it. So protein on this is 16% minimum. The way that Heinold, I thought this was interesting. The way they do it is they just go there by their minimum percentages. So their 16 is like 16, 17, and they're the only one they have that's 18%. It says like 16, 18 or something on it. I think that's their wool formula. But that is the closest thing they have to what's officially 18% because they'd rather go by their minimum than what their maximum is. Where I think Mana Pro and some of the other ones just list their max. So anyway, but yeah, so we do 16% pellets. Orrin Reynolds was a rabbit scientist that did major rabbit nutrition research who formulated these, which is why these are a lot of people that have this as a preferred mix. But he does, these are dehydrated alfalfa is the first ingredient, and then soybean hull, which is to add fiber and protein. And then it's wheat millings, soybean meal, which adds protein. And there is a study that I have up on the wiki that explains how rabbits digest soybean, and they found out, unlike other animals, I know for humans, too much soy is bad because it screws up your endocrine system. Rabbits aren't affected the same way as other species. And there actually was a study. Yes, we will go for steak in a minute. I will probably wrap this up in a second. We just wanted to cover a few points here because it's just super frustrating that one of our friends was accused of killing 2 rabbits and a guinea pig with absolutely no proof because she basically stated the same thing with the same facts. And live gives me a chance to expand on where that research came from and what she actually said, which was 80% pellets if it's complete and balanced pellets, like we've been saying. And rabbits do not need hay if they're being fed a properly balanced diet. And so, and plus the fact that there was no proof of anything actually having done. None. No proof at all. It's just more slander being pushed out by people that are being paid by Oxbow. Like I said, I don't get paid by Belstra or Heinold. We just sell the extra feed we have, and we're honestly barely making any money on it. So it's not like it, that's not my main income. That's just something we're doing on the side to cover the feed costs. But
it's really funny though. A lot of these folks are like, oh, my rabbit's doing so much better on the critical care, and then they take them off the critical care and they start going back downhill. And it's because you're basically taking them off of the complete pellet that they've been on. It's just a ground up complete pellet is what critical care is.
No, Joe ate like everything before he left. So I can't even show you. I can show you what supplements look like. We still have some calf mana. And that's the other problem, is people not understanding the difference between, which is why it needs to be a better discussion. There's a difference between pellets and supplements. So like when we go supplementation like calf mana, it's literally, look, you see this much calf mana is what they get. This much. It's like a teaspoon worth because this is, I think, 30% protein, and it's primarily soy and corn just as a supplement. And this is something that you give to like your nursing does or animals that maybe need a little bit of a boost. But it's not their main feed. And we had people going, oh, I'm misfeeding it. I fed my rabbit the calf mana and it killed it. Like, Mana Pro rabbit food or the supplement? And they're like, yeah, the supplement. No, I'll do that. So yeah, this much.
It's sad because they'll feed a whole bowl of that, and I'm over here like, oh no.
What you want to look for, and I think that actually would be right ahead most of it. But this is what we got left. This is all Joe left me.
The boy likes his nums.
Joe left me like 3 pellets left, so you can barely even see what it looks like. So they're this color, which is like, see that nice bright alfalfa green? That's what you want to be seeing in pellets. You want to like that super bright, that's fresh.
Now
You
press
want something
down on
that's
it.
fresh. Yeah. And then you see that the hardness here too is it's yeah. So that's hard enough. Like I can if you do it like this, you can break it. But this is again, this is it has enough of a hardness or a shape. Yeah. It takes a minute to do it, so it's enough to alfalfa. Yeah. So
Can you taste the molasses in it?
no, you can't. You know what does taste like molasses? It's the
The
calf man. It tastes like
the calf
molasses.
manna, yeah.
It tastes like licorice,
Like black licorice.
like very dry black licorice. Mmm. And the corn.
Bunny food.
Actually, hold on a second.
It's not bad, is it?
It's like licorice flavored raisin bran.
Yeah.
I think I like the alfalfa better.
But you have
Oh, am
to.
I making Granny angry? Because Granny wants some calf manna. Granny probably. Yeah, but it's. Oh Lord.
So much
Yeah, so that's
fiber.
what's in this. Mmm. I It's so tasty. Yeah, but that's
if
she
you
just
if
ate
you
rabbit
like
pellets.
it
Yeah,
if you like it so
fine.
much, why don't you eat it? I did.
Well, yeah, people tell us like, "Would you like to eat kibble? Have you actually tried the dog food?" I've tried everything my animals has ever eaten, either
Oh,
by choice or by accident.
yep. My husband has this thing.
Yep.
If he has to eat it, he has to eat a piece first before he'll ever give it to the dog, because he wants
I
to make
want to
sure
know.
that it tastes good. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna check myself first. Like we're very picky. Well, no, okay, I take that back. He's currently on a raw diet. I'm not eating his current feed. But anyway, but beyond that, the kibble, I'm trying the kibble. I'm not trying his raw. But yeah. So, yeah,
But
we've done that. So, yeah, we've been.
but yeah, I mean, a lot of this is, you know, people are taking out of context. We're not saying no hay ever. We're
No.
saying that a majority of the hay that they need is already in the pellets that they need. Loose hay, beyond being a disease vector, is also a, you know, it's just not nutritionally enough for them. This has been borne
No.
out by science. And a diet of 80% hay would be like a human being eating a whole package of rice crackers and then having one bite of a whole meal.
Yeah, it's just not gonna do it. You're not gonna be able to survive on that. And then the other thing with the hay is like, so the pellets, again, we showed you the kind of the hardness factor. When they're chewing on a pellet, because they're in here, as you're going here and you're here, your jaw
Yeah.
is going to be like up and down, and then they'll chew a little in the back. The hay, because there was a study done on the axial load, you give them a thing of hay, and if you look at their jaw, they're going like all over in order to get it to actually chew it. So they're actually putting a greater load on their jaw muscles than they are with the pellets. So the pellets are hard enough to wear their teeth down, but malinclusion is actually caused by too much hay because typically wild rabbits will only eat hay in the winter when they're starving otherwise because it is like all they can get. That's not a year-round thing. Typically it'll be more like branches or something that's kind of a medium hardness versus a dry twig or dry sticks. Or they'll eat what was blackberries and brambles over
What? Yeah.
most of the year. Yeah.
Brambles, which are what we call wild blackberries, they're 30% protein, which is an
Mm-hmm.
extremely high protein. They eat the leaves every other part of the year, and then in the fall they eat the berries. As the
Yep.
berries come on, they'll eat a few of the berries.
And
They
those
prefer soft young grasses, soft green twigs, and the only time that they really gravitate towards dry dead grass, which is what hay is in the wintertime. They'll go for that and tree bark because they're starving and they're trying to to get some kind of nutrition. I mean, look at a wild rabbit. They don't look healthy.
No. And then you also got to take into consideration what the sugar content is for a blackberry stem or blackberry leaves. Because if it's not going to be the same sugar or water content of like lettuce, because lettuce is super, super high in sugar and liquid, which is what will fill the pine needle. So you got to take all that into consideration too with wild rabbit diet, and also the fact that rabbits have been bred for hundreds of years now to handle, a more commercial type feed. And originally, like I probably need to go grab Beyond the Pellet, because what they were doing is it kind of tells you how to do your home based mixes, like your properly balanced your home mixes. And a lot of people will say it's worth it just for the nutritional breakdown information. But typically, rabbit diet, if you want to go earlier than the 60s, they were rolled oat based. And what I like to do, like I like to add rolled oats, steam rolled oats, because it helps increase milk production to my does. That's one of my supplements. A little bit of barley sometimes. Black oil sunflower seed. Now I know they go, oh no, rabbits can't have seeds. It's correct. Regular bird seed they should not have. Black oil sunflower seed is your exception. That also helps with the fat content to help with shiny coats. And again, it's a higher fiber, higher protein, higher fat supplement. But that's not like all they're getting. They're getting it as like like you do a handful of calf manna. You can do a small handful of the oats and the sunflower as a supplemental in certain times. Like you want to help them with their coats if they're blowing coat, so they can regrow their new coat, or if they're heavily nursing, or if they're in a late stage pregnancy. That helps kind of boost their nutritional content. So.
Lindsay Bellevue, so the wild rabbits that are in the U.S. Are cottontails. They are not the same species as domesticated rabbits. We're talking about the wild counterparts of our domestic rabbits are European rabbits. So the rabbits that are loose in England, basically.
Because we've had people come in our comments being like, I watch them eat grass all day. And we're like, that is a cottontail. And they are tiny. And it is not the same species, like adult. I don't know that all day either. And that's the other thing is, they live in communities, kind of. And that's a whole other thing with the whole colony thing is what was discovered was rabbits live on a fear-based structure. Rabbits are naturally solitary. They don't like to be in groups. And if they are in groups, they tend to have very large personal spaces. And if they're forced in any smaller space due to, lack of food or housing, or being forced into a tighter area, there's typically one alpha rabbit that bullies the rest of the rabbits into submission daily. So there's one happy rabbit and 10 rabbits living in fear. And if they miss a social cue, it will rip them to shreds. That is how rabbit society works. So that's why we don't particularly like the whole bonding thing, because you're not really bonding. You are allowing one rabbit to be abused. So that is another thing that needs to be taken into consideration.
I mean, people really need to watch Watership Down. It's pretty close to where they're constantly kicking each other's and beating each other up. That's true.
And I cannot tell you how many times we've been on House Rabbit Society Facebook groups and message boards and reading how their rabbits are tearing each other apart and they can't bond them, and then have people telling them to try what was it, fear bonding or stress bonding in order to force them into a situation. It's like, that's just cruel.
The person,
and if they go, it's like, oh, they were fully bonded, then I took my one rabbit to the vet for 2 hours and I came back and they're trying to kill each other. Like, that's not really bonded then. It's
I'm so strong on no rabbit bond is permanent. They tolerate each other until they don't. They can tolerate each other for years until they don't. Well, something is going to happen.
Yeah. Joe and Azathoth did. They were together from 5 weeks old because they both came down with nest box eye together. So we ended up having to pull them both into the house to do daily treatments on their eyes. And they lived together from 5 weeks old until about 18 months old. And when they turned 18 months old, remember, I kept them completely separate, no does, no nothing. Azathoth just decided that he wanted to play rough, and he was the dominant one. And Joe is very submissive, and so Azathoth would beat up on Joe. And I came out one day and Joe had a big bite in his eye, and that was it. And we had to separate them. They liked being close to each other if there was a cage wall between them so they could still see each other, but we could never put them back together again. And so that was just it. That was, they were done. Um,
The person
that is how it is.
the person who attacked our friends apparently has spent $2,000 and has been trying to bond those two rabbits for 10 weeks straight.
Some rabbits just don't like each other. It's not going to change. That is just, at that point, it's cruelty.
Well, now this person is saying, this person says that they're bonded now. Yeah, let's see how long that lasts.
No, they'll tolerate each other until they decide they want to rip each other's throats out. Okay, even I had tech support and Martha away from each other for like 3 days. And because we split the cages up, and then we said, well, okay, well, for cage space, I'll see if they'll go back together again. They were gone for 3 days. I put them back in. They just fought, so I had to take them back out. I'm like, no, it's done. So sometimes you can, because and they're young still. I mean, like
little bitties, yeah.
Yeah. So you usually we'll leave the grows together up to 4 months tops. And usually we keep an eye on them if someone starts causing problems, troublemaker gets pulled out. But yeah, no. Once they decide that they've hit that maturity level, they're not. You can't put them back together again. Not easily. And then in order to have them together, they need to have like 50 square feet of space a piece, minimum. That is how much space they need so you have to have 100 square foot room minimum in order to keep them in the same area, and sometimes more than that. Like Blackstrap, Shrimp was telling us when they brought her in the house the first time and they gave her the bedroom, she just took over the entire bedroom. So if you walked in the bedroom, she would charge you and bite your ankles. So she's just really territorial. We know this. She's doing really good right now. She just had 10 babies, but she's just very spicy. So you gotta be careful with Blackstrap. Spicy lady.
The ghost pepper of bunnies.
Yeah, but they had brought her inside, and she went from being like, I'm okay in a what was it, like a 8 square foot, I think they had her in an 8 square foot cage outside, one of the larger grout cages, and she was happier being in more space. And as soon as they gave her more space, she says, this is all mine. And then she was like, fight me. So
and then we have the people that are like, well, if they're neutered or spayed and then you try to bond them, everything will be great. And another one of our friends had to take in a rescue of a male who had literally lacerated the crap out of his bond mate that he'd been with over a year, and both of them were neutered.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. In fact, they've done studies on that too that show that just because you alter them, the hormones don't affect it. It is literally rabbit social structure. So just because they're spayed and neutered is not going to change their behavior, because it's not a sexual thing. It is a societal structural thing with rabbits. So it can be a doe or a buck. It doesn't matter. And that's just going to be how they are. In fact, when they did the tests to see how they like to be, they found that most of the does would rather be solitary. Like if they were given the choice between going off in their own hole or staying with the colony, they would rather go off on their own. And yes, there were times when they would lay butt to butt and stuff, but that was if they felt like tolerating the other rabbit, and then they'd go off on their own for quiet time. So they need to have a large amount of space. You can't just leave them together. I only give my rabbits hay for nesting materials, and in the winter for keeping themselves warm, because typically if you give them hay, they play with it. Like literally, Granny can have hay in front of her with a 5-gallon bucket stuffed with it at all times. And what she will do is she'll go over to that bucket once in the evening, and she will pick out one strand of hay, and she will nibble on it like spaghetti, and then she will go play with something else. Like literally, she'll eat like one strand a day. It's hilarious. But no, it's just a toy for them. They really don't care. So that's that's kind of what we deal with. So they can get it on occasion. Typically in the summer, I do not give hay because it is a disease vector. So they will only get it when they're nesting, but they don't need it. They're on a complete pellet. We give them hay cubes as toys, so they will nibble on and eat the alfalfa cubes. But hay itself is only given to them for nesting material to keep them warm in winter, and if they're having any kind of illness. So because it can be used as extra fiber for a gut issue, and
My
that's very
little
rare.
my little pet boy, he gets maybe a handful a week just as a toy. 90% of it ends up in the dropping tray under his cage because he don't eat it. Another thing you'll notice is if they're on the pellet diet, most of the time that they just turn off the hay anyway. It becomes a toy to them and not part of their diet.
So I have approximately 200 plus rabbits in the barn right now, and over the winter we went through maybe one bale, 50-pound bale a week. So at most for 200 rabbits during an extremely cold winter, we went through 4 bales in a month, and I believe that was including feeding the sheep. So
So
mostly went to the sheep.
so user 7265, when you're saying going through 2 to 4 bags of hay a month, what's the rest of the diet look like? That's what I want to say. Because if they're getting something else, then they're trying to fill the gaps with other stuff. So if they're going through that much hay, they're trying to get their nutrition and they're downing the hay.
They're desperate. They're hungry. Because most, like I said, like we were saying earlier, typically rabbits, wild European rabbits will only eat dried grasses if they're starving. That is what that's literally what it is. Is they are unable to get their regular diet, and they'll only eat it in the winter when they're hungry because there's not enough nutritional content in it. Yeah, so we don't feed greens at all because the greens will cause GI stasis, and rabbits do not tolerate them very well. So typically, you should not be given greens more than 2 times a week at most. And when we're talking about like how much, I mean, I'm literally talking like, say that is how much greens they're getting every couple of days. That so this little tiny bowl, this much. That's it. Like literally, Joe, I think got what, like two slices of apples every other day. We gave him a shot. That was his treat.
One leaf of romaine contains as many carbohydrates as one medium strawberry. So if you're feeding more than one leaf of romaine, you're basically giving them a fruit salad.
Yeah, it's not worth it, and that will cause gut stasis. That will cause bloat. That will cause other digestive issues. It'll cause their hindgut to get overloaded by bacteria. It may take a while, but it will. Um, the not giving them enough of, and it's also what, again, we're going back to our recommendations here are based on what is available in the United States. If you're in Europe or the UK, it is a different dietary recommendation because you cannot get the same type of balanced pellets that we get over here.
Okay, so if they're getting red and green leaf lettuce, butter lettuce, okay, you need to check the carbohydrate contents on all of those things. And check the carbohydrates, the total carbohydrates of that plant versus other types of fruits to see how much sugar you're actually giving them because carbohydrates break down into sugar. Unlike humans who have trouble breaking through plant cell walls, rabbits have the ability to bust open the cell walls on plants because they're herbivores and plant specialists. And so they can access the total carbohydrates of that plant. And so they will get every bit of those carbs that you're feeding. So you have to make sure that your total carbohydrate intake that you're giving to your rabbits is not overloading their guts with carbohydrates, which get broken down into sugar, and too much sugar equals sickness and death in rabbits.
So it's so carbohydrate total is 0.63 grams per cup for raw red leaf.
Oh, wow, that's high.
Yeah, and the fiber content's only 0.25.
So it's
So
all
fiber,
sugar,
so
no fiber.
it's all sugar and water, no fiber. All right. Go with Greenleaf. USDA is fun because it'll tell you things.
Yeah, I know. Or you could just Google
One
has a carb height.
greenleaf lettuce. Greenleaf lettuce, 1 cup has 1 full gram of carbohydrate. So that's actually a lot. And we're gonna get the fiber on this one.
Hi, troll. Look, it's a troll.
I should just follow them. That'd be hilarious.
That would be funny.
Anyway, there we go. Dehydrated and other than. Yeah, but that's the main thing. So when we're doing that, like, so the complete pellet though, because they're getting everything that they need in the pellets.
So to reiterate, with the balanced pellet, with the complete balanced pellet, it's 1 ounce per pound of adult body weight. So you're going to find the max weight of your breed of rabbit, or your suggested breed of rabbit, and you're going to stick to 1 ounce per pound of adult body weight for that rabbit. And it will be split up into morning and evening feedings. You need a baseline of 16% protein guaranteed minimum, and you need 18% fiber.
Yep. Yeah, and that's how you do the break it down.
Start checking the guaranteed analysis on the backs of your feed bags, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, what pellet are you feeding? Because we can look that up too to see if it even meets minimum requirements. Because minimum requirement should be 16%. I think the one study said like 15 was like the baseline for them to be able to do okay on, but we really say just do 16. It gives you a little extra protein. It's not going to hurt. And
the rabbit nutrition requirements, the absolute minimum to keep a rabbit alive is 9 to 12%. Yeah. That is absolute bare minimum to keep a rabbit alive is 9 to 12%. That's not accounting for their activity, especially if they're a house rabbit that's running around a lot more active. They're burning through that protein.
Okay, 3 different types of pellets seems a bit excessive because typically you feed one type of pellet because mixing them up constantly is going to cause issues.
Yeah.
So which pellets are you feeding them? Because you typically want to pick one pellet and stick with it. And if you want to transfer it, you have to do a 50% gradual transfer over a week.
Because that's just causing... okay, so Sherwood's too high in fat. Oxbow Garden Select's way too low in protein. And Science Selective.
I've looked that up before. I didn't think it was too terrible, but I need to look it up again. I've looked that up before. I didn't think it was too terrible, but I need to look it up again.
Hold on, I gotta drop off.
That's fine.
Hold on, I gotta.
It's the stand. It's like 4. Is it, which one is it? Because there's a couple different ones. I'm going to invite her back when she's ready. Yeah, because they got a couple different versions of Science Selective. I want the guaranteed analysis of this bag because that makes it so much easier for me to read. There it is. This one. It's not helping. Are you one of those UK? Okay, there it is. 12%. Not enough protein. 12% is way too low. That's just going to barely keep them going. So yeah, no, none of those have high enough protein to even start with. Fiber's okay though. So it's got a decent fiber content, but there's just not enough protein. Which is weird why there's so little protein. I'm wondering how their balance is then. Oh, it's probably the wheat. There's probably not enough alfalfa to wheat to alfalfa balance. I thought I did let you back in. You need to request. You have to request to join back in. There.
The greens are low in protein. The vegetables and greens are extremely low in protein. The pellets that you're feeding are even if you combine them, they still are only going to be at about 12%. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
Combining them doesn't stack up. Combining them doesn't stack up the proteins.
No,
It doesn't do that. Yeah, it dilutes it. Okay, Mana Pro and Mana Show. So we don't support the red bag of Mana Pro, the Mana Pro, the red bag, because there's a formulation error in there. They went cheap on the red bag, and so that one is off of the list. But the Mana Pro Show, the purple bag, is still okay.
Yeah, just feed them the show bag.
Yeah, just the show bag.
Just feed the show, but just the purple bag. So go ahead and dump the red bag and just feed them and just move them all over to the purple.
Yeah, move them to the purple.
There's no reason to be feeding two separate bags. Or if you need, if it's because you're getting it at Tractor Supply and you're looking to get it cheaper, find a local feed store or find a local dealer. So like honestly, if you're in Southern Indiana, I am a dealer for Heinold. You can also get ADM pen pals. You can actually order that from Ace Hardware. If you go to your Ace Hardware store, they will send it to your store and it won't cost you anything extra for shipping. If you are in a few areas, you can get Kalmbach, which is also good. So, I mean, all those are options, and they may be cheaper. I know if you're close to me, Heinold is changing how they're doing their distribution, so we're going to be able to keep our prices pretty reasonable for our bags. So right now we do, yeah.
It doesn't matter if your rabbit is a pet. This same diet is excellent for pet rabbits as well that we do. It's just if you do it for your pet rabbit, you just have to make sure that you're maintaining that 1 ounce per pound of adult body weight, 16% minimum protein, 18% fiber or higher. That works for a pet rabbit as well as a show rabbit. It's a rabbit.
Just because they haven't gotten diastasis yet, I think it's that 2-year sweet spot, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Is they're still fairly young. Now that they're going to be fully mature, you got to be extra careful because they're going to be at a higher risk.
The older a rabbit gets, the harder it is for them to process their feeds. And so when rabbits start getting up to about 3 or 4 years old, and process those feeds goes way down. They start having more health issues. And this is coming from somebody, I've had hundreds and hundreds of rabbits. I've had some that had, a majority of them actually lived past 10 years old. So, once they get over, I'd say about 3 to 4 years, then their ability to digest goes down drastically. Yeah. So having the calories on board when they're young helps them grow and be better when they're older.
Yeah. And then I guess they can like hay, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't give them a balanced base. And because like I said, hay are toys. Hay is toys for us. I stuff cardboard tubes with hay. We'll give it to them for stuff to play with. It's toys. So they have something to mess around with.
They can, you can still have hay around them, but it's just not 80% of their diet.
Yeah, you have to offer, like you can free feed hay with balanced pellet. It's not going to hurt them. I mean, if you want to stuff and I've done that with my grouts where we'll stuff, in the winter to kind of keep them busy and let them, give them something to burrow in. I'll put 2 or 3 flakes of hay in the grout bin, and they will dig into it and make a mess and eat it and do whatever they want to do with it. And then we'll clean out after a day or so when they've soiled it, because they will, and then we'll put a fresh one in. But that just gives them something to do. But they're still getting their pellets. We're not going to restrict pellets just because there's hay in there. And all right, so Tiffany, can you give me kind of a general location where you are? I can maybe at least try to point you in a way to get your stuff for a better price. because there are some ways to do it, or I say look to see if you can find a local feed mill, because it will probably be cheaper. Because if you're paying $50 a bag for Mana Pro, where we're at in Indiana, I think it's gone up to maybe $25 a bag now, and we're selling our Heinold for between 17 for 10 plus bags, or $20 for a single bag, for local. But yeah, that's something you won't want to put into.
Okay, well, if your rabbit is in a big X pen, it's going to be expending a lot more calories and a lot more, using up a lot more protein.
Okay. Well, you may little shit might know where your regional feed mills are then, because if you're that's if it's going to be, because you'll know what's local for you, what's going to be most cost effective, and that's a good bang for your buck for a good quality feed. Because we've seen, and I've seen people on the Facebook groups too being like, oh, I'm feeding this, and we've looked into it and going like, that's just because it says organic doesn't mean it's good. Like, it was a really bad one. It was like 12% protein, and I try to remember what else, but it was like, it was bad. It was really bad, and they're trying to tell people, oh, it's organic, it's great, and it's like, no, 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 no. Hmm. Yeah, and honestly, if that's what it is for shipping, it's probably rough.
Yeah. Vernal, Utah. Yeah, so little shit
So when you're
ranch
saying
there.
if you're saying $10 to $12 a bag, how many pounds per bag? Because when I'm saying it's $20 for one of our bags, that's a 40-pound bag. So, or if we're going the Kalmbach and the other ones, they're 50-pound bags, and you're paying $25 to $30 for a 50-pound bag. So, I mean, if you're paying $10 to $12, that's great. But if you're paying $10 to $12 for like a 5-pound bag, you're not really price.
It's not cost effective.
Yeah.
You're actually spending more for less nutrition and less oomph.
All right, I'm gonna have to get off here shortly because we're gonna need to run and go get something for dinner, and then I'm gonna be on Twitch later, building a pirate ship and watching a movie. So if you guys want to do dinner and a movie, Kranitz is going to be streaming Lego again tonight, and we'll be doing that. But yeah, Mammoth Show for 17 Tractor Supply is not bad at all. No, sunflower seed is okay. We avoid corn at all cost, because unless the only people I've seen feed corn are people that are trying to do immediate grow out or slaughter, and they're trying to do it as finishing. I really don't recommend it, because the risk for feeding them corn is they're going to go into GI stasis quickly, and that will kill them. And you can't butcher something that's dead.
There's too much sugar in the corn.
Yeah, it's too much sugar. It's going to screw them up.
And the black oil sunflower seeds are perfectly fine. It's a great source of omega fats, and it has the shells are fiber.
The Purina Show feed is actually not terrible, but you need to check which formula it is. Much like with the Mana Pro, you need to verify which formula, because there is differences between the formulas.
All right, so this is a good place to.
If you want to kick over and do a live stream, but I'm gonna have to head out because we gotta go get dinner.
Yeah, I gotta get me something for supper too. But this is a good place to pause, and we'll do it again.
We're gonna have to do this again. You're gonna have to come back, unfortunately, because the wire. There's nothing wrong keeping them wire bobber cages, but that's gonna be a whole another hour discussion. So if I wasn't running for dinner, I would address that. But the thing, just very briefly, wire bottom cages have to be made with the correct cage wire. It has to be 14 gauge is preferred. Between 12 and 16 gauge is okay. It has to be 1 inch wide by half an inch wide. It needs to be galvanized after weld, which is smooth. I don't have a sample here I can really show you, but I may bring one in tomorrow.
Correct cage water supports feet like a bed spring, basically.
Yeah, proper cage wire supports the feet correctly. Because rabbits basically have big fluffy feet. I mean, okay, here we go. What happens?
And And one more item to add here is that sorehox is also largely genetic. The reason that a lot of pet people see it is because the pet rabbits are bred very poorly. And so they have more incidences of it.
This is a rabbit foot. You see how there's no at all. They do not have paw pads.
It's a little hand covered in fur.
They have, and I can go get one of the ones that we made into a fairy hand because there's no fur in it. But if you see, there's just it's fur. It's thick fur. I just pulled these out of the alcohol this morning, so it's not quite dry, and I haven't brushed it yet. But that's what the base of a rabbit fit looks like. That is the base. No paw pads. Versus Bernie, come here. Come see mommy. Yeah. Versus Bernie has paw pads. Wire will rip into this and damage that. That's why you cannot put dogs on that kind of wire, because they will get torn up. So you can't put dogs and cats on it because dogs and cats have a fleshy paw pad, and that'll hurt them. But rabbits do not. They basically wear fluffy slippers, so it doesn't affect them the same way, as long as it is properly gauged and firm. As long as you have it like a proper surface, it's actually better for them, because when this gets wet, the fur falls out. So you want to put them on an aerated surface like wire surface, so that they don't get urine scald, so that they remain clean.
And there's a couple of studies that showed that the rabbits actually preferred the wire over solid surfaces and straw covered surfaces.
Yep. But I'm gonna go ahead and I gotta go because like I said I gotta go eat. But I'll catch you guys later.
All right, bye-bye.
Wait. There we go.